Lily and her creek. Mud sucked at Lily's boots as she neared the creek. Sunlight, fractured by the canopy of an ancient oak that stood sentinel, painted shifting patterns on the flowing surface. The air vibrated, a high-pitched chorus of insects interwoven with the stream's murmuring passage over polished stones. The scent rose from the earth, laced with wildness, bruised greenery mingling with the secrets held by old wood. Kneeling, she gazed into the clear, cool water. Tiny tadpoles, like fleeting commas, flitted among the submerged willow roots. "Hey there, little ones," she breathed, dipping a finger for the current to toy with. Growing up strong? For as long as she remembered, this ribbon of water had offered solace. Here, existence resonated with clarity. Birdsong, the rasping calls of frogs, the whisper of leaves, a more perfect orchestra than any broadcast. She'd whiled away hours crafting toy boats from fallen debris, setting them adrift on imagined voyages to far-off, mythical lands. Today, however, a different current stirred within her. A hard knot of apprehension tightened her stomach muscles. Tomorrow's HOA meeting loomed, and the memory of Mr. Henderson's self-satisfied expression, unveiling his plans, seared in her thoughts. Progress, he called it. To entomb the creek in cement. To obliterate her refuge. Gathering a handful of cool, smooth stones, she felt their weight in her palm. "Not if I have anything to say about it," she murmured to the waterway, her voice lost in its gentle babble. She shut her eyes, picturing the creek as it always had been, a vibrant pulse of life sustaining the neighborhood. Somehow, she had to make them understand what they were poised to destroy. Her creek. Her duty. The gray monster. Lily skipped down the overgrown path, the morning sun warm on her face. She was eager to check on the minnows she'd spotted yesterday, tiny silver darts in the creek's shallow pools. But as she rounded the bend, a metallic clang echoed through the trees, stopping her short. A swarm of orange vests clustered near the creek bed. A monstrous, gray machine, its metal arm dripping a thick, viscous substance, loomed over the water. The air hung heavy with the smell of dust and something acrid, like burnt plastic. Lily crept closer, her bare feet silent on the damp earth. A sign, newly erected, stood sentinel. HOA Improvement Project, Drainage Enhancement, Phase 1. Bold, corporate lettering proclaimed progress, but all Lily saw was devastation. The machine belched another load of gray sludge, and it flowed, sluggish and relentless, into the creek. Her minnows, her secret world of tadpoles and crawdads, all being entombed in cement. A wave of nausea washed over her. "Hey," she shouted, her voice trembling. A man in a hard hat turned, his face obscured by mirrored sunglasses. "Little lady, you need to stay back. This is a construction zone." "What are you doing?" Lily demanded, her voice rising. You're burying the creek." The words felt inadequate, failing to capture the horror churning inside her. The man sighed, a puff of air that dismissed her concern. "We're improving the drainage. Prevents flooding." He gestured toward the cement with a gloved hand. "All for the good of the community." Lily stared at the gray monster, its mechanical heart pumping concrete into the lifeblood of her woods. But what about the animals? What about the creek? "Goodbye, tadpoles." "Daddy, why are those big trucks back by the creek?" Lily asked, tugging on her father's sleeve as they walked home from school. The metallic tang of exhaust already hung heavy in the late afternoon air. He sighed, a sound that seemed to settle deep in his chest. "Remember Mr. Abernathy from the HOA?" Lily scowled. "The one who yelled at Mrs. Davison for her flamingo garden gnomes?" "That's him." "Well, the HOA. They've decided the creek is a drainage issue." He made air quotes with his fingers. "They're going to improve it." "Improve it? How?" Lily's brow furrowed. She pictured the bustling world she'd discovered there, the snails tracing silver paths on rocks, the busy water striders. "They're going to bury it," Lily buck. "Put it in a pipe, underground. Make it neater." He avoided her eyes, kicking at a loose pebble. The words landed like a stone in her stomach. "Bury it? But the tadpoles." Her voice cracked. "What about the tadpoles?" Her father knelt, his hands heavy on her shoulders. "That's why I wanted you to see them, Lily. Sometimes, people don't see the same things you do. Mr. Abernathy sees a problem, something messy. You see, life." He squeezed her shoulders gently. "The HOA thinks they're making things better for everyone. They don't understand." Tears welled in Lily's eyes, blurring the already fading sunlight. The vibrant green of the trees lining the creek seemed to dim, replaced by the dull gray of concrete she knew was coming. "So, goodbye, tadpoles." He pulled her close. "I'm afraid so, Mija." Dreams of splashing water. Lily missed the chattering of the creek. It used to be the soundtrack to her summer, a constant, playful melody. Now, the air hung thick and silent, broken only by the distant drone of traffic. She missed the flash of silver minnows darting between rocks, the lazy hum of dragonflies, the cool, earthy scent of damp soil. Even the mosquitoes, she realized with a pang, were missed. They were a sign of life. Sleep offered little solace. Dreams came, vivid and cruel. She was small again, barefoot, chasing tadpoles in the shallows. Sunlight dappled through the leaves, warming her skin. Giggles bubbled from her throat as she splashed her brother, Marco. He splashed back, his face alight with joy. Then, the creek bed cracked, the water vanished into the earth, leaving them stranded on dry, dusty clay. Marco's laughter turned to a whimper. She woke with a gasp. The image of the cracked creek bed burned behind her eyelids. Her throat felt tight, her chest heavy. She glanced at her phone. No texts. No calls. Even Mrs. Davison, who usually had an opinion on everything, had gone quiet. Rolling out of bed, Lily wandered to the window. The morning was bright, the sky a cheerful blue. But the cheerfulness felt mocking. Down below, the cement slab gleamed, reflecting the sun like a malevolent mirror. It was as if the creek had never existed, erased not just from the landscape, but from everyone's memory. She was alone in remembering. The rain comes. The rain began subtly, a hushed patter against the window, a sound Lily usually welcomed as a balm. Midday, however, brought a deluge. Relentless sheets hammered the panes, turning the landscape into a blurred, monochromatic wash. Overburdened gutters sputtered and choked, unable to cope. Watching the rising water, Lily felt a growing unease. Her grandfather's tales of the creek surfaced, its former capacity to absorb heavy downpours, a safeguard now obliterated by concrete. A desperate summons echoed. Mrs. Henderson, face ashen and rain-washed, stood at the doorway. "Lily, it's flooding." Inside, Lily threw on her coat and boots, rushing into a transformed world. The street had become a torrent, choked with floating debris. Submerged lawns disappeared, leaving cars stranded like grounded leviathans. She spotted Mr. Peterson frantically fortifying his doorway with sandbags, his expression a mask of despair. "I warned them," Lily shouted, her words swallowed by the downpour. United, she and Mrs. Henderson pushed through the current toward the threatened house. Inside, water had already infiltrated, spreading across the floor. A wave of fury surged through Lily, a burning contrast to the encroaching chill of fear. This wasn't simply nature's fury. It was a consequence of human failing, a tangible result of avarice and lack of vision. And a stark realization settled upon her. This was merely Act 1. Pumps and promises. The drone of the pumps was relentless. It vibrated through Lily's bedroom window, a constant thrumming counterpoint to the birds that usually serenaded her mornings. She pressed her face against the glass, watching the muddy water being sucked from the street and spewed into a tanker truck. It was a frantic, noisy ballet of desperation. Downstairs, voices rose and fell. $300,000. Sophia's voice, usually calm, held an edge. For temporary pumps? Instead of addressing the actual problem? Lily crept to the doorway, peering into the kitchen. Her dad, usually jovial, rubbed his temples. The HOA meeting was a disaster. Half the residents are furious about the noise, the other half just want the water gone, no matter the cost. "It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg," Sophia sighed, turning to the sink. "All that money. Imagine what we could have done to restore the natural flow, the wetlands." The image of the buried creek flashed in Lily's mind, the vibrant life suffocated beneath layers of concrete. A knot tightened in her stomach. She couldn't just stand by and watch them pump away money and ignore the root cause. She marched into the kitchen, the floorboards creaking beneath her feet. "Mom, Dad, I want to see where the water's going." Sophia looked at Lily, a question in her eyes. "It's just going to the treatment plant, Mija. Dirty water being cleaned. But what if it doesn't have to be dirty in the first place?" Lily countered, her voice rising above the hum of the pumps. "What if we can stop it from flooding? A picture is worth 1,000 gallons. The rhythmic whir of the sump pump across the street usually lulled Lily to sleep, but tonight it felt like a relentless accusation. She tossed and turned, the image of Mrs. Gable's waterlogged azaleas replaying in her mind. Then, a memory surfaced, the creek. Not the sad, cemented ditch it was now, but how it used to be, a lively ribbon of water that gleefully swallowed every raindrop. She remembered watching leaves race downstream, twigs bobbing like tiny boats. It all flowed away. Now, the water had nowhere to go. Lily bolted upright, grabbing her sketchbook and a handful of colored pencils. She attacked the page, sketching furiously. First, the creek, snaking through the neighborhood, carrying away a deluge of rain. Then, she drew the stark concrete channel, abruptly ending before the houses. Finally, the streets, choked with water, tiny houses marooned in a turquoise flood. She scribbled angry, jagged lines to represent the overflowing storm drains. Dawn was painting the sky a pale orange when she tiptoed into the kitchen, placing the drawing on the table. Her mom, Sophia, was already up, making coffee. "What's this, Mija?" she asked, her voice soft. Lily pointed to the creek in the drawing. "Remember how the creek used to take all the rain away?" She traced the line of the concrete channel with her finger. "Now it just stops. The water has nowhere to go but up, Mom. It's like a bathtub with the drain plugged." Sophia studied the drawing, her brow furrowed. Her dad walked in, yawning. He glanced at the picture, then at Lily, his expression shifting from tired to curious. "A picture is worth 1,000 gallons, huh?" he said, a hint of understanding dawning in his eyes. Lily nodded fiercely. This wasn't just about a flooded street. It was about something much bigger. The HOA meeting. The community center hummed with the electric from a fluorescent tubes, each flicker amplifying Lily's anxiety. Her father gave her hand a reassuring squeeze as they entered the echoing hall, its air thick with the ghosts of coffee and polish. Mr. Abernathy, presiding over a collapsible table with the air of a kindly autocrat, peered over his spectacles. "Lily Rodriguez," he proclaimed, glancing at his clipboard. "Presenting to the board?" A dubious lift of his eyebrows punctuated the question. Lily's carefully prepared speech evaporated. She gripped her artwork. One panel celebrated the creek's vitality before its entombment in concrete. The other depicted the subsequent flooding, brown water raging through streets. "Yes," she managed, her voice only a touch unsteady. "I want to illustrate what was lost." She approached the panel, revealing the large sheet. A wave of hushed reaction washed over the room. A sharp intake of breath came from Mrs. Henderson. Even Mr. Abernathy's practiced smile wavered. "This," Lily stated, indicating the vibrant waterway, "is what existed prior to the cement. Before the inundations, my mother explained that the creek naturally drained excess water." Shifting to the second image, she continued, "Now, the deluge has nowhere to recede but onto our streets." Her gaze locked with Mr. Abernathy's. Perhaps a portion could be decemented, just enough to allow for drainage." Silence descended. Mr. Abernathy's expression was now an unreadable tableau of conflicting thoughts as he studied the drawings. The relentless hum of the lighting intensified, the sole sound in the strained atmosphere. The rainwater garden. Lily clutched her artwork, the paper crinkling slightly under her sweaty palms. Mr. Abernathy, perched behind the imposing HOA table, cleared his throat. "Ms. Rodriguez, you have the floor." She presented her drawings, fantastical creatures drinking from a vibrant, meandering creek. What if we could bring some of it back?" she stammered. Abernathy adjusted his glasses. "The creek, as you know, is managed." Sophia squeezed Lily's hand. "We've researched rainwater gardens," Sophia said, her voice calm and clear. "They can naturally filter runoff and create a beautiful habitat. It could alleviate some of the flooding issues, too." Abernathy remained unconvinced, but the seed was planted. After heated debate, the board agreed to a feasibility study. A month later, they approved a small-scale rainwater garden project. Lily, armed with a small trowel, knelt beside Sophia. The air smelled of damp earth and the sweet perfume of newly planted native flowers. Carefully, they dug shallow channels, guiding the rainwater's path. Fat bumblebees buzzed lazily around the blossoms. Finally, the rain came. Lily held her breath, watching as the water trickled into the garden, filling the channels, nourishing the thirsty plants. It wasn't the rushing creek of her dreams, but it was something. A small victory. A smile bloomed on her face. The scent of petrichor filled the air. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something bigger. She could almost hear the creek whispering promises of renewal.